I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Today we're going to talk about disability employment law issues with my special guest and dear friend Marcus Castillo. I'm often asked, how should you tell your employer that you're applying for disability benefits? How should you ask for FMLA and how long does it last? Can my employer fire me? What happens to my group insurance? These are many questions that both Marcus and I get, and we will have answers for you today. But before we get started, we've got to give you a legal disclaimer. This podcast isn't legal advice. The Florida Bar Association says that we have to say it, but nothing will prevent us from giving you the answers you need. So off we go. Marcus, welcome. It's great to have you here today. Can you tell us about yourself and how you became an employment law attorney?
Sure. It is a pleasure to be here. And so here's a bit of my story. I have been an attorney since 1983. The first 10 years of my practice, I first worked in a small, what lawyers like to call boutique firm, trying cases on behalf of plaintiffs, the person's bringing the case. Then I shifted over for 3.5 years to the defense side, which actually was invaluable because it taught me a lot about the defense mindset. And I did that for as I say, a spell of time. And then around that point in time, I was ready to set out on my own, or at least with a partner. And it just happened that in that same time frame, again, the 90s, Congress and the legislature were busy passing a number of critical employment laws that radically changed the landscape of employment litigation. For instance, they passed the Civil Rights Act amendments, which for the first time allowed for jury trials in employment cases. Also allowed were recovery of emotional distress and punitive damages. And we also saw Congress passing the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Family and Medical Leave Act. So I viewed this as presenting an opportunity to help people in a different way. So I moved in a new direction and began taking those kinds of cases on behalf of employees. And then while continuing to do this work, I saw that there were also opportunities to help folks in the employee benefits arena. So, as you do as well, got into the ERISA realm, although I no longer do the long-term disability because, you occupy the field, you're so good. I focus on, some of the subspecialties like life insurance and accidental death in that arena. But, it's a mix between employment and ERISA and other forms of trial work. And that's a little bit about me.
Well, great. So I want to tap into your expertise in employment law. So tell us generally, what do clients need to know about employment law as it relates to their disability insurance claim?
So first, what folks need to know is that there is an overlap between employment and disability law. And what I've seen in my own career is that folks would come to me with a situation where they're getting harassed at work, they have a medical condition, but there's this notion that maybe it would be better if they go on short or long-term disability. And so what we have here is sort of the intersection between the ADA and disability law, and it's kind of a tricky sort of tightrope walk because under employment law, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, which, says that if you are a qualified individual with a disability, and that's an important phrase, which I'll touch upon some more here, you have the right at the standing to bring a lawsuit if you're being discriminated against on the basis of your disability. Okay, but the issue is indeed, are you a qualified individual with a disability, which means that you, despite your condition, can still do the job. Perhaps you'll need an accommodation, a reasonable accommodation, I need to underscore, but at least you could do the job. If you can't do the job even with that accommodation, then that's when the disability law starts kicking in, when ERISA starts kicking in, and one should be looking at short-term or long-term disability as a more viable option. So, that's a little bit of an overview, an oversimplification, if you will, but there's a huge intersection between the two.
So I'm often asked, well, how should I tell my employer that I'm applying for disability benefits? Because I'm afraid I'm going to get fired or I'm going to lose my benefits. So what advice do you have to clients in response to that question?
Well, the first thing I would tell anybody is look at what you've been provided since you've worked there. Most importantly, look at your employee handbook, look at your benefits books, and inform yourself. Look in the employee handbook to tell you whether it gives you a protocol as to who you're supposed to talk to about applying for disability benefits. I mean, it may be in the benefits book, but first be armed to know what, in fact, your rights are. Also, when you're looking at that, you need to come to terms with what your own doctors are going to say. And I know you speak to that at length in your own practice and when you counsel, folks, but it's something you need to know. You need to know that not only from the disability law standpoint in terms of your disability benefits, but back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, you need to know whether or not you would be a qualified individual with a disability if you choose to stay there, because you're going to have to be one to sue for disability discrimination. So in essence, what I'm saying to you is look at your manuals, inform yourself, take a hard look at your own medical situation, and then do what the manuals say. If they're not clear about it, go to your HR or your benefits department and put them on notice that you're interested in making a claim. And they should cooperate and give you the information and the forms you need.
So how much information do you need to give them about your medical condition? Should you bare your soul or just say, my doctor's told me to stop working and I need to apply for benefits?
I mean, I think my personal belief is you don't need to bare your soul. I think the appropriate thing to tell them is that you need to look into applying for benefits, that you have some medical conditions that are concerning, and then that becomes a matter between you and the disability insurance company in large part, at least as far as applying for disability benefits.
So are they going to share information? I get that question all the time. Is that HR person going to go to my supervisor and tell them I'm applying for disability benefits?
You have HIPAA protections, which should protect that kind of disclosure. HIPAA laws, as you may or may not know, make private your health information. I mean, at some point, your health information becomes possibly relevant if you choose to pursue a claim for disability discrimination. And yes, your health information may become relevant to the extent your employer may have to fill out some questionnaire for the disability claim. But at the point we're talking about here, looking into it, it's not the details are none of their business.
So should I be applying for FMLA and how long does it last? That's another question that we get. Should I be doing that in conjunction with my short-term disability application or does my employer require me to do both? What's your answer to those kinds of questions?
Sure. So maybe some basics, would be in order here. So the FMLA, for those of you that may not know, is first, FMLA is an acronym for the Family and Medical Leave Act, which was passed by Congress in the early 1990s. And basically, it's a law that protects employees who've been at a company at least for a year where that company employs 50 or more employees. And what it gives you is up to 12 weeks of protected job leave during a calendar year. Now, that leave can be taken either in a big chunk or it can be taken intermittently. And for the purposes of what we're talking about here, there's various forms of leave. There's a military form of leave, there's a childbirth form of leave, but we're talking here in this context about leave for a serious health condition. So to answer your question, should you apply? You need to reckon with the question of whether or not you have a serious health condition. And if you do, then you may well be entitled to leave, and there's a process for that.
So Marcus, you and I both know that most short-term disability benefits are as short as 3 months, as long as 6 months. So if someone is applying for FMLA, depending on how long that short-term disability plan is, they're possibly going to run out of FMLA at the point in time when their short-term disability benefits expire. What impact does that have, if any, on their job at the employer's place of business, and what interaction, if any, does it have with the LTD claim?
Right. A couple things to talk about here. First off, the way it usually works is that while FMLA itself, at least in the way the law stated, it protects one, and it's a form of unpaid leave. The short-term disability sort of overlaps on top of the FMLA leave to provide paid leave. Now, the question you're posing is what happens at the end of FMLA leave if you still can't go back to work? And the answer to that is it's very, very possible you may lose your job. Now, I'm gonna add a wrinkle to that and say that under the Americans with Disabilities Act, there is this notion that you might be entitled to a little bit more leave after the 12 weeks end if you can show that that's close-ended and that it's a reasonable accommodation to give you a little bit more leave beyond the 12 weeks. But that's a case-by-case basis sort of thing. But this underscores the reason why, if it's going to be a serious health condition requiring you to be out of work for more than 12 weeks, you start looking at short and long-term disability. I mean, you're in fact on short-term probably if you're on FMLA leave. You may indeed need to be looking at long-term and what the long-term disability policy requires you to show.
All right, well, that's great information. Let's take a break for a moment, all right?
Sure.